Hello, everybody. I'm here with Sherry Wilde, the author of The Forgotten Promise, and we're just here today to ask her a few questions about her life and her experiences and everything she's been experiencing on this planet. And without further ado, I'll get going here. Sherry, maybe we can start with the simple stuff, like when you were growing up,
Oh, okay.
what that was like, and what state you grew up in, and
Grew up in Wisconsin, in rural Wisconsin. Went to a one-room schoolhouse and had a very idyllic, very simple, old-fashioned, kind of like the Waltons, only not quite that old, but a lot like that. My parents chose consciously to raise their children away from society and in a very secluded, what they thought was a safe environment, and it was magical. I just talked to my older brother the other day, and I said we really did have the perfect childhood, didn't we? And he agreed with me. He had to agree. It was a wonderful childhood. I don't know that kids have that these days anymore, but it was beautiful. I loved it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. On a farm, 160. I think it was 160 acres, and we just ran the hills and played outside all the time. Absolutely.
so those were innocent years for you, huh?
Very innocent years.
You were living the so-called American dream
Yeah.
at that age?
It was the 1950s.
Okay.
You know, I was born in 1950, and so it was the 50s and then into the 60s, which were really a magical time. So it was an ideal time to be alive, I think. It's perfect.
Okay.
I liked it.
So I'm going to skip a few decades.
Yeah.
And we're going to get right into it. You wrote a book called The Forgotten Promise, as I'm sure most of the viewers are aware of as they're watching this. What sparked the book, and how were you guided to write it?
I was awakened in the middle of the night. I believe I might get some dates wrong here because it's been a while since I've told my stories. But I think I was awakened in the middle of the night in 2010. I think it was right around Christmas time, which would have put it right by my 60th birthday, I think, 59th, 60th birthday, and told that that the great earth changes were underway. My guys had told me about those a decade or two earlier, and they said, we're well into it and there's work to be done. And I said, okay, what do I have to do? And they told me I had to write a book. And I said, well, tell me something else. I'm not going to do that. I don't want to write a book. It actually, we talked about it and it sounded pretty cool, the idea to write a book. So I did say yes initially. Packed up and went off to Arizona because I was in Wisconsin, packed up and came down to Arizona. And before I left, I talked to the guy who was the lead investigator on my case, Don Schmidt, and took notes from him and talked to another lady who was involved in the investigation. So I did prepare to write the book. But once I got down here, I changed my mind, and I said, "No, I'm not going to write the book. It'll blow up my life. It'll mess up everything." So I said no, and I kept saying no, and they kept saying, "Write the book, write the book." And what happened was I came awake one morning, not in my bed, but I was sitting at my father's dining room table in his sunroom in Arizona, and I was on my computer, and I was on page 3 or 4 of what was obviously a manuscript, a book. And I looked at it and I said, what is this? I literally came awake. I didn't have any memory of getting out of bed and getting dressed or anything. And I heard the familiar voice of my guy, and he said, it's the book. And I said, I'm not writing the book. And he said, it is time. And I said, I don't care, I'm not writing the book. And he said, it is time. I was like, damn, so stubborn. And I was like, how much have I written? I don't remember even writing this. And I was looking at the screen and I got sucked into it, and I was like, I read a few lines and I thought, well, how long is this? And I clicked back a few pages. It was on the 3rd or 4th page. And I started reading it. And it just sucked me in. It was about my life. And in those few pages, it answered a bunch of questions I had about my life. Things I didn't consciously recall, but there it was, explaining some event in my life that had taken place. And I thought, well, this could be interesting. It could answer a lot of the unknowns, because I had a lot of unknowns in my life, a lot of missing time, a lot of things that had happened to me that I had no explanation about. So I said, okay, I'll write the book. And I mean, I put my hands on the keyboard, and it just came through me. It just came through me. It was an interesting experience because we kind of did it together. I had a ritual of every morning doing the Course in Miracles, reading the Course in Miracles, and then going into meditation. And sometimes if I was reading the Course or if I was reading another book, I was reading a lot of Eckhart Tolle and things, they would highlight a word in yellow magic marker in my book. I would be reading and a word would be highlighted like that, and I'd be like, what's that? And they'd say, write that word down, you're going to need it later when you're writing the book. And so I kept a notebook where I wrote down these words, and it turned out they were the perfect word to describe what it was I was trying to write about. And I found that to be interesting. They didn't really highlight, I mean, it was there at the time, but then it wasn't there when you went back. So I had lots of weird things like that, but it just all seemed very natural. Book came out. I mean, I was down here for a couple months and wrote the whole thing in that time. And after it was over with, I was like, thanks a lot. Not going to publish it, you know? And they're like, yes, you publish it. And I said, nope, but thanks. You know, it answered a lot of questions, but I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to publish it. Went back to Wisconsin and went to see my Reiki guy one day to have a massage and some Reiki. And he's a Pleiadian, and he's very tuned in. And after the session, he said, Sherry, we had visitors, which was not uncommon. We always, usually, when we got together and did Reiki, we usually had healings that took place for me, or visitors from my guys, he called them. He said, we had visitors, and I said, what is that? And his eyes were all sparkly, so I knew he was excited. And I said, what happened? And he said, the room was filled with angels. He said, the whole table was surrounded by angels. And I said, wow, that's different, because usually it's ETs. And he said, well, there was one standing up by it would be my left shoulder here, he said, and larger, had a very strong presence. And so I said, let's go around the table and introduce ourselves. And he said, we got to that angel, and he or she, I don't know, introduced himself as Gabrielle. And he said, I said to him, you wouldn't happen to be Archangel Gabrielle? And he said, in answer, he unfurled his wings. And he said, okay, that's okay, you don't need to. And I said, well, what was Archangel? I didn't even know if I believed in archangels, but I said, what was this Archangel doing there? And he said, we had a message for you. And I said, what is that? And he said, and Will looked at me and he said, did you write a book? And I said, yeah. Why? And he said, well, apparently you're supposed to have that book published. And I said, is that what the Archangel said? And he said, yeah. He said, I was to tell you to get that book published, that was the deal, that you needed to publish it. And I said, I don't want to publish it. And he said, well, this angel said that the book needs to be published and it's going to be made into a movie someday. And my guys had been telling me that about the movie, and I said, I don't believe that. I said, it's just a little book. I said, it's not going to get made into a movie. And Will was like, I don't know. He said, I just told him I'd deliver the message to you. And he said, you're going to be traveling the world and you're going to be speaking on stages, and this is part of who you are. You need to do this. And I was like, I said, you know what that's going to do to my life? So I was upset about it. I went home and I called a friend of mine and I said, how do you go about getting a book published? And she told me what to do. And so I put a little bit of effort into it. I put together the manuscript and a cover letter and the things that you do, and I submitted it. And there were only a handful, 5, 6, or 7 publishers that published in that genre. And so I sent it off to them, thinking this is going to go nowhere. 2 of the publishers were out of business, and one of them accepted it right away. But then eventually Dolores Cannon took it, and it ended up getting published. And it did exactly what I knew it was going to do. It blew up my life. Just totally blew up my life.
So Dolores Cannon, most people know who she is, or I should say anybody who's read your book or has been watching your videos. You got to meet with her
Yeah.
personally. And what did she have to tell you, if that's okay to share with us?
Yeah, well, the first time she called me, it was really, I had only recently learned of who she was, because after I wrote my book, I shared it with a few people, the manuscript, and they said, this is like Dolores Cannon. And I think I went back and might have even edited my book to include her reference to the volunteers, but I'm not sure if I did. But I read some of her stuff, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, I referred to myself as a participant in a program, because that's what my guys always said, you're a participant in a program. And so that's what I would call myself. But then I heard Dolores, and she's like, you know, the people coming in to be of service at this time to planet Earth are volunteers. And I was like, well, that's a lot easier to say than participant in a program, and more understandable. But I was blown away by everything she said in her book. And I had never read any of her books cover to cover. I just read certain excerpts, and I listened to her videos, because I try to keep myself away from other people's interpretations of what they're living through, the experiencers, so that it doesn't taint mine, and I still do that. So I have never read all of her stuff, but I know enough about it that it just shocked me. So when I met her, when she called me, I knew who she was, because obviously I had sent the script off to her company. But she said, I want to publish your book. And I said, well, I have it with another publisher. And she said, get it away from them. I want to be the publisher. And she said, but even if I don't get it, she said, I know I want you to come speak at my conference for at least the next 2 years. She said, you're the first author that I've that I've read that aligns so closely with what I know to be the truth. And it's like a breath of fresh air. She said, what you're saying and the way you say it. I didn't know at the time what she was talking about, but that's what she would say every time I would see her. And when she would introduce me to come on stage, she would say, you know, Sherry Wilde's the author of The Forgotten Promise, and her book tells it like it is. You know, it's not about the fear, which is what my book was. It was about transcending the fear, so that you could really see the experience of interaction that you're having with the ETs for what it was, not for what your fear-based human ego was telling you it was. And so she really liked that message. So I so regret that she left when she did. I didn't see that coming. I thought she was going to stay through more of the ascension process, but for whatever reason she decided not to, and I miss her. And when she left, I don't know if I should share that, but I saw her pass over, and it was really, she really had an impact. She was greeted on the other side like you would not believe.
Like a big celebration?
Oh my God. As far as you could see, the souls that were there. And she came down this big wide ramp, and she smiling her crooked smile and just waving like it was just a beautiful thing. And I didn't expect it. I was in the shower, and I was like, what is this? And it was just, it's the way I would imagine it to be, I guess, you know?
Right.
It was just beautiful, just pure love and appreciation for what she had done.
So that's beautiful that you were able to see that and witness that. It probably was shown to you to kind of help you cope with the fact that she left when she did.
Yeah.
Everything in divine timing, as they say.
Yeah, and I do, I think of her often. I just thought of her the other day. She popped into my head, and I felt her close.
Wow.
I know a lot of people do, but I feel like, we had a connection, of sorts. And so, anyway, she's quite the lady. She paved the way, made it easier for someone like me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, over time, obviously, since you've written the book, many things have transpired, almost like a chapter 2 type thing, or part 2 to your book. Your movie, is that going to be only including what happened in the book, or are you going to include the last 11 years after that?
Yeah, that's a good question. The movie came along. They had told me about the movie even before. I think they started talking about it even before I wrote the book. You have to write the book, Sherry, because it's going to be made into a movie. I'm pretty sure I remember them saying that to me, trying to get me to write the book. Like, that was dangling that, and I said, I don't care. But the book got optioned within months of it coming out by a wonderful couple that they're dear friends, and just beautiful people. They were kind of like the placeholders, because I had lots of offers to have the book made into a movie. But I had it with this couple who I really liked, and they had other things going on, and for whatever reasons they sat on it, and it felt right to me. I was in no hurry to push for a movie. It didn't matter. I just didn't care. So they sat on it for some time. She filmed a documentary because she is a filmmaker, and she's got the documentary pretty well in the can, but she needs to finish it up. I guess. But there was no movie until as soon as she wrapped up filming that documentary, and she barely had gotten back to LA, and I got an email from a lady in London, a filmmaker, Martha Fiennes, and we started corresponding. She had read my book, and she wanted to know about making it into a movie, and it felt right to me. I mean, I had all these other people, but this was the only person that I thought, this is right. I was being guided. I introduced her to the couple who had the option, which had expired, but I didn't care. I was still just keeping it there, and introduced them, and they hit it off. And I mean, it's just such a loving family that has gone to work on this film. So Martha, of course, has put tons of time and energy and effort into it, and she just now finished writing the pilot. It's moved along very slowly. People ask about it a lot, and it's you can't explain why it moves so slow, but that's just the business. It's been fascinating for me to watch, but most of all, what I learned was it'll happen when it's meant to happen, and I just never pushed it until recently. They came in, my guys came in, and I've got these angels who are involved, and it's time, apparently. And they told me to tell Martha about, it hasn't been that long ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I suppose, they told me, they started pushing on me to tell her to write the pilot. And she's like, well, you don't write the pilot until you have, a commitment or whatever. I don't even understand. But she said, it's premature to write the pilot. And I said, my guys are telling me, you really need to write the pilot. And so she's, too much to my surprise, I think she wanted a reason to do it because she was itching to do it, I think. So she stopped what she was doing, and she went off, and she wrote the pilot, and she's just finishing it up now. She's just got 2 more days maybe worth of work on it. Well, as fate would have it, there are some other things happening that are coming together, and she needs that pilot. And she's like, I'm so grateful, because I need this to send off to this person. And so my guys are telling me, and they have been very active of late since they told me to come down here to Arizona, that I would be healed, that I would begin the healing process, and that it was time. And I said, yeah, well, I've heard that before. And they said, no, it's time. In the film, everything is going to start to just blossom. So I said, okay. So I came to Arizona, even though financially it's a hardship for me to do it. We rented this house and we came down here. It was hard for me to get my body down here because I've been so sick. But we came down, and I have to say that Jim and I both thought we'd get here, and that I'd be able to start walking. I'd be out walking during the day, and we'd be doing all these great things that you and I could get together and spend time. And instead it went the opposite direction. I just nosedived and got sick. As sick as I never thought I was going to go back to that, being stuck in my bed and stuff, but that's what happened. And I was very discouraged by all that. But they've been coming in now and saying, these blue angels, that we call them Blue Omni, these blue angels have been around for the last 2 years or so, and they've been saying, are you ready to be healed? We need to get you healed. The problem is these blue angels they're the same ones who work with Joe Dispenza. It appears, well, they told me, yeah, they are the same ones, and their frequency is so high that they can't just come in they can't come into my bedroom and heal me. Although they have, on a couple occasions, they've shown up in my bedroom. I've been able to see them and communicate with them, but it's rare. What they've done, these blue angels, who they communicate through our mutual friend Kim, who channels them, and they're working with her, giving me messages and encouraging me and telling me to hang in there and telling me, coaching me as to what to do. But what they did is for the last few years, they found a few different people, Kim is one of them, different people who they can communicate with and send their energy through, but they were looking for just the right person.
Right.
And they found that in this guy over in London who reached out to me, much as many other healers have done. Over this 10-year course of time of me being sick, I have had a steady stream of probably at least a dozen or more healers who reach out to me. Usually they send me an email, sometimes they call, and they say, I say the same thing, Sherry, you don't know me, but I've been assigned to heal you, or I've been told by my guides that I am to heal you. Are you okay with me doing that? And I've had that at least a dozen times. And they've been wonderful people. Wonderful. I always say yes, and they do. They help to heal me. I had one guy who was just extremely powerful, that when he would heal me, I would black out. He would tell me, I'm going to heal you at 7:30 tonight, be ready. He would always want me to be on the sofa or in my bed, and I would black out, and I would find myself on a slab out in outer space. He was unbelievable. I'd be on this slab out in outer space, and he would work on my etheric body, I guess. I can't explain it, but he kept me alive. That was at my worst time. But they killed him.
Oh.
Yeah, they killed him. They killed him, and they killed one other guy. So when I heard from this guy in London offering to heal me and to work with me, and I knew that he must be powerful, because I said, they've told me that you're like the final guy. You're going to take me over the top. You're going to be the one to get this job done. And he said, well, I hope to. I have a high success rate. And I could just tell talking to him. And I was going to say something to him, but before I could, he said, do I need to be concerned about my life? He said, I'm getting that there's some darkness around, that you've been attacked, and that's what's wrong with you. He said, which he knew me. He was a huge fan of mine. He said, I fall asleep often to your videos. He said, there's something about the sound of your voice. He said, so I said, yeah, you do need to be concerned. I said, I did not know that before. And I said, I lost 2 people who were very dear to me. And so I said, you can say no. And he said, well, there are people who would miss me. And I said, I'm sure there are. And I said, you don't owe it to anybody to do this. And he said, well, let's get on with it. He said, I think it's worth doing. He is of such a high frequency that the Blue Omni, the angels can send their energy through him to me. And he sends energy to me every night between the hours of my time, 5 and 11 o'clock at night, anywhere in through there.
And what are you feeling when that happens?
The first time, I was with Jim, and I was sitting at the table, and I started to, I shake anyway.
Right.
I started to shake. My whole body started to tremble. And I was like, what is going on? I said, this is, some frequency is coming through me. I said, I don't know if I'm under attack or what is going on here. And I shook for about 20 minutes, really pretty bad. And it was very uncomfortable. And it tapered off, and then I felt pretty good. And I was like, what the hell was that? I picked up my phone and looked, and here was a message from me saying, Sherry, I just sent you prana healing energy. I hope you could receive it. I hope you could feel it. It was very powerful on my end. Well, he proceeded to do that every night. He would send, right after he sent it, or right before he would send it, he would send me a text message. I felt it every time, and then it got to the point where I would tell Jim, I'd be sitting on the sofa, I'd be something, and I would say, I'm getting my healing. The healing energy is coming in. And I'd be like, you just watch, and I'd be sitting there, and then I'd wait 10 minutes, I'd pick up my phone, and I'd be like, see? So I feel him, and he varies by hours, and I'll absolutely feel it coming in. And he tells me it's getting stronger every time he sends it. I believe that. He was directed. I mean, it's just been amazing, because I started meditating and doing the Joe Dispenza meditations, blessing of the energy centers, which I was told to do. The Blue Angels told me to do that, which is very powerful for me. I was doing that meditation when he sent over some of his energy at the same time, and I got, it was too much. I mean, it crippled me. I mean, I was out of commission for a couple hours. I mean, it was good because it was good energy, but it overloaded my poor, frail body. he was told immediately, he said, do not administer to Sherry until you check with us, and we check with her guides and we make sure it's all clear. But they didn't tell him why. With me, they told me, we are going to tell him, that he's not to send energy until it's all clear with you because you got overloaded. And so he told me, they directed me not to send the energy. Why is that? And I told him why, and he goes, oh. So it's interesting because he's getting the same, it's confirmation that we're getting. He was told, so 100 things, he was dictated 3 pages of notes as to what to do to heal my body. And I took that information and I said, okay, we're gonna do this. Immediately the next day, I heard about the new, it's called ROOT, R-O-O-T, treatment for people who have been poisoned or who are toxic and have lots of, anybody who's living in this world. And it clears out your brain and detoxifies you and restores your body. It was perfect for me. I watched that video, it showed up and I watched it and I started to shake. And I knew that I was meant to go on that product. And I sat down and I ordered it without even, I just told the healer I was gonna use his stuff, but I ordered this stuff without even, I just ordered it. And that night when I went to bed, the Blue Angels came in and they were dancing around my room. At least this was the projection. Maybe they're not really there, maybe they're just projecting, because they were in my bedroom and they were like, get on that new protocol, Sherry, get on that program, get on it. And they were jumping up and down. Do you hear? And they were saying, do you hear me? Do you hear us? You need to get on that right away. And I was like, I hear you, I hear you. And they're like, I said, you're angels, be a little more dignified. And they're like jumping up and down and they're like, we want to make sure you remember this. So I get a hold of, I don't want to say his name because he might not want me to go public, but get a hold of my healer guy and he said, Sherry, last night was, his day is my night and my night's his day, but he said, last night, he said, your Blue Angels came in to me and he said they were literally jumping up and down. He was laughing. He's like, I've never seen this. They were jumping up and down in my bedroom and saying, get Sherry on that new protocol that she's got. Get her, make sure she does that. That is all she needs. She needs to be on that. Get her on it right away. And they told him the same dosage. Tell her 3 drops to go work her way up to 3 drops and then plateau there. Told me the exact same thing. Go to 3, because I was like, how much should I take? And they said, start slow, go to 3 drops and plateau. Well, I went to 3 drops and I plateaued for 2 days, but I thought if 3 is good, then 6 must be really good. So I went back the next day and I went to 4 and then I quickly went to 5 and then I got killer sick. And my healer got a hold of me. He's like, what are you doing? They're telling me that you're overdoing it. They're telling me that you've made yourself sick. You increased the dosage of the drops. And I said, yeah. I said, I figured it'd be good if 3 was helping, 6 would be better. And he said, Sherry, no, you're doing more harm than good. So, it's things like that. How do you can't make that up, You can't just guess and hope to get it right. We are in touch, communicating mind to mind. The connection is so strong. So that's what's going on, we're working on healing my body. And he keeps telling me that that there's going to be this huge improvement, this big change in my health. He tells me that I'm going to be flying to London and I'm going to meet him in person. I'm going to be coming over there because that's where Martha is with the film, something to do with the film. He said, but I'm going to meet you then. He said, they've shown me that a couple, 2, 3 times. And I said, right now, I'm not hardly well enough to ride along with Jim to the grocery store and sit in the car while he goes in to get groceries. But if you're telling me, I'm going to believe it. So I'm trusting in it, but I've been hearing it for a long time. It's just been a long, long time. So anyway, that's a long answer to your question.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
Are you able to legally share any information, I guess, to whoever views this in regards to specifically your guys, where they come from, who they are? And I know over time you've kind of added more guys / spirit guides and angels over the years. Like, for example, Da and the people or the beings that assist in whatever they're doing, whether they're healing or whatever their mission is. Can you elaborate a little on that?
I get asked that, and I realized after being asked that so many times that I never questioned it myself. You know, I have that story that I tell of where in the book, I guess it was my publisher, you know, said you describe your guys as grays, but then you say they come from Andromeda. And I said, I mean, that's how naive I was about the whole thing. I said, so? And he said, well, if they're from Andromeda, they can't be grays. If they're grays, they're zetas, and they come from Zeta Reticuli. And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he said, well, just trust me. He said, find out where they're from. And I said, okay, because I didn't care. I didn't know. And didn't care to know. But I did go back to my guys, and you know that story. And so I was with Da on the ship, and I said, my publisher was asking where you're from. And he looked at me, and I said, I know, but I said that they like to know things like that. I said, so what should I tell him? I said, are you a Zeta? Because in the book, I do describe you as being like a gray. And he said, well, that is just a container that I wear when I come into your density to do my work. You know, I'm actually what you would call an etheric being. I don't have a body. And I said, okay. And I said, so you're not a gray? And he said, that would not best describe the truth of who I am. And I said, so who are you? What are you? And he just looked at me, and then he snapped his head back and he said, I am a voyager of the universe going where needed in service to the Creator. And that was his answer to me. I never have asked. I never ask where anybody's from. I'm not into those labels, and so
Right.
I just have never had that curiosity. You know, I've been visited by many, I mean, so Da does look like a gray, but I've also been visited by the Mill Lab grays, the Zeta grays. I have had them come for me, and they were warned off of me, but they still have taken me on more than one occasion, but they were definitely chased off. I've had interactions for sure with the Galactic Federation, the whoever's involved, whoever they may be with those uniforms, because I remember those guys. But again, I didn't ask where they were from. And I've had interactions with these tall, white, beautiful, etheric, loving beings. I've had interactions with the Draco. They've been at my house more than a few times. I've had these little, my guys, like they came last week to me and announced that they were in the room with me, and I said, that's great, that's fine, as long as you're here, maybe you could do some healing work on me. And they reminded me, you know, Sherry, we're not really healers. That's not what is our strong suit. I mean, they can do Reiki. And, you know, I needed that reminder, because I always tend to think, you know, that anyone from off-world can do these things. And they said, we're not healers. And I said, well, could you send in your people? And then I remember when they would send in for healing for me, and they were doing it on a regular basis because of the poison and the EMF attacks on me, my brain was damaged a lot. And they would send in these real little, cute little doggy-faced guys, so cute. They come in, they're always so chirpy and happy. They're so happy. They come in and I'm like, okay, hi, welcome. And they're like, hi, we are here to reset your brain. I'm like, okay. And they did that. That's how the only reason I'm still here. As much poison as I had in my body, as much as I had been hit with EMFs and ELF, radiation, there's no way I should have survived. But the only way is they came in right away. They've done tons of stuff to my brain. They've cleaned my brain, and they've done injections. I mean, I have had so much stuff done, needle marks, and I've had them come in and put implants in, the negative ones, and then my guys come in and they take the implant out that same night or the next night. I mean, I'm, like Martha says, the film, she said, really, she said, as I get into this, she said, there's like a tug of war with you.
Yeah.
You know, you're working with, you came here to do some positive things, but you've got the dark who are always pulling you and messing with you. Which, going back to your question, now I remember part of it, I didn't answer it all, but yeah, so because when Martha started working, she came and stayed with me a few times and started getting to know me and knowing my story. The film was going to be I just remembered you asked that question. The film was going to be, originally it was going to be a movie based on the book. If you spend time with me, and she stayed at my house, you notice stuff happening. And we had stuff happening, and of course the guys were there showing off a little bit. And she's like, is it always like this? And is this your life? And she started to know me more and more. And she concluded the same thing that I did, that what has happened to me since my book came out is of more importance and more intriguing, and needs to be told more so than the ancient story of abductions.
Right.
What happened to me since then is the truth of the world that we live in. And so the movie did go from, I told her, I said, it's not going to be a movie, Martha. And she said, it's going to be a great movie. And nah, because she kept saying, but I have to put that in the movie. And I'm like, there's not going to, you can't.
Right.
There's, to get to this point, you have to go through this. I mean, there's so much.
Yeah.
So now she is saying, so now it's going to be a series.
Great.
They call it a TV series, which I guess includes HBO Max is probably, and Netflix. And so if they do my whole life, it should add up to be 3 seasons worth of like 8 to 10 shows per season.
Wow.
There's a lot, Adam.
A lot of information.
The main problem is going to be me. I mean, I was told to take notes, but when you are dying,
Yeah.
and I spent much of the time, the last 10 years, thinking, it got pretty rough in 2018, 19, and 20, and 21. I mean, it got really rough.
Mm.
And I would surface every now and then. I would get strong enough, and as soon as I feel good enough, I want to do an interview.
Yeah.
But then they would come at me, and I would be back on my back. And so I don't have much in the way of notes, but I can go back through as best I can through emails maybe and things and try to, but mostly I just went silent.
Right.
And I've got Jim here with me, but neither one of us like to go back and revisit it, which is why I'm doing this.
Right.
Is to put it out there so that I can say, this is what I've gone through, this is what I've experienced, but I don't want to go back and talk about it a lot.
Right.
I'm not going to, in the future, let's say when I'm healthy and everything is good, I don't want to have to revisit these days. They're just, well, they were quite the experience, and I struggle to find the good in it, but
What would you say is the most positive part of all of this? I mean, obviously, the health issues are horrible, and the ridicule. Clearly, people in your life who knew you from just the regular Sherry in this 3D matrix, now trying to accept you into this different realm. There's so many facets to all of this. What has been the highlight where you're like, okay, this is worth it, or do you think that's about to happen? The best part.
That's a great question, Adam. So that is a great question. That's a very good question. Makes me explore myself a little bit more, which I have done a lot of. You can't imagine how much I have questioned why I have gone through this, what is the purpose, and certainly looking for the higher purpose in it. Because I believe everything in my life has been choreographed and planned since before coming here. Now, having said that, I mean, I don't know how much you want me to go into this, but I'm just gonna let I'm gonna work through this process myself, because back in 1991, way back then, my guys came to me right after I had been regressed, and I was remembering my experiences, and my marriage had ended, and I was about to go back into it and try to have a normal life. But it was 1991, and my guys came in that day, and they said, things have changed. Things have changed, and the dark knew that I was coming to the planet. They knew before I was here, even came here, that I was coming, and they were prepared for me, but they said, we didn't know that they were going to be as focused on you. They have put the beam of focus on you, and we can't guarantee your safety, Sherry. That's what I remember them saying. We can't guarantee your safety. And the plan had been, this is going to be an exclusive. The plan had been that I write the book with my daughter, who is also an experiencer, that the two of us write about our experiences together. We write a book, and that a film be made, a movie be made. She knew about that already. She used to talk about it. So in 1991, they came in and they met with me. And I have this, I might have it in the book, but I've definitely talked about it before. And they said, things have changed. Things have changed, and we're going to pull you. And I said, what do you mean you're going to pull me? And they said, we're going to bring you, how did they say it? We're going to take you to the other side or something, some terminology like that. And I said, but I knew what it meant. And I said, I'm leaving the planet? And they said, yes, within the next 3 days, you're going to be exiting via a car accident. And I said, no. And they said, it's all different, Sherry. It's all different. It's not going to go. They have got a fixation on you, and they are not going to leave you alone, and we cannot guarantee your safety. The plan was for my daughter and I to write a book together. She was an experiencer. Her experiences are pretty phenomenal too. And I've not talked about this before, but due to privacy issues with her, but it is the way it was, and it may or may not come out in the film, but she was going to write the book with me. We were going to go and do lectures together and work on this together and show how this was a generational thing. And then the movie was going to be made, and she was a little actor. She was a talented little actor. I mean, it was all set up as to how it was going to go. But I remember them clearly, and they said, we're pulling you. And I said, I'm not in agreement with that. And they said, that's the way it has to be. You can be of much more benefit on the other side and come with us on the ship. And I said, I don't want to. I said, things have changed. I'm here now. I have a family, and I'm on the planet as a human. I want to finish out my life here. And they said, it's not going to happen. They said, we'll talk about this. We stood in my living room and we talked for the longest time. And I just finally said, no, I'm not doing it. I was supposed to die in a car accident within the next 3 days, and I wouldn't leave my children. And they told me that it was probably the best thing for them if I did, that they were of an age, they were old enough. I think my youngest one was probably 18 or 19, maybe 18. I'd have to figure out but to me, they were still my children, and I didn't want to leave them. And from that point on, everything then got changed. The plan had been for that book to come out, so instead it was just me writing the book and going it alone. Yeah, it's hard to track my life and try to figure out what was part of the original plan and what was not, and where everything got skewered. How did the poison and the attacks happen? I mean, that's the big question. I know how they happened. I just don't know who's behind it. I believe it was what I call the dark military. I have memories of these uniforms, these beings, and these really little Zeta Grays. I have memories of when I absolutely know, I mean, the Draco came to my house on more than one occasion, and I wasn't that afraid of him. The first time the Draco came in through the back door and interrupted my meditation I was doing, and he scared the crap out of me. He was just so scary, and I didn't know creatures like that were here. He scared my dog, and he scanned me, which I don't know if that did anything to me or not. I mean, I have thought this through so many times. Was I attacked? Well, I was attacked. I mean, I was hit. They tell you, that's the thing, is they tell you. So they told me that they used something called ELF, extremely low frequency radiation on me, which suppressed my immune system and lowered my frequency. I had because I came here from 6th density, level 2, and so I had a high frequency, but they lowered that through the use of these radiations, these devices. I was hit with a directed energy weapon twice, which is how they killed my two friends, and that just wraps around your heart, squeezes your heart till it feels like it's going to burst. And then they hit me with EMFs and my dog until I couldn't even get out of bed. And so I was definitely attacked. Who and why? What I keep being told by everybody who looks at it is that they attacked me because they knew about the movie. They knew my book was having more of an impact than it should for such a little book, and that the movie was going to have this huge influence on humanity and create this massive tsunami of awakening among those who were ready, and they wanted to stop that. And they know the film will not get made if I'm not here. That's the thing, which is unfortunate. If it were, but it's been right from the get-go. Understood, the film won't get made if I'm not here. And those words are all that are needed for them to know if they can take me out. Because even now, at this moment, it might be far enough along. I'm just praying that it might be far enough along, which might be why I'm able to maybe be healed now. But before, anytime there was any progress on the film, I paid for it. Anytime I did an interview, I paid for it. I was attacked. It was the correlation, and you start to think, am I creating this? Am I making this up? Is this a story? How ridiculous is this? But I've been isolated, which was, that having my health taken away has been really hard on me, really hard, because I'm active. I was always an active person. It's very hard on me. But I've learned to surrender and to just accept whatever. I just accept. Right now I have severe vertigo, as you know. I can't hardly walk due to the vertigo, and my eyesight, which is why I'm wearing these glasses, my eyesight is so blurry. I've had this for it'll be a year. In a couple weeks, it'll be a 1-year anniversary that I woke up with this blurriness, and this, I tell people, they say, well, what's it like? And I take some Vaseline and rub it in your eyes, and then spin around in circles until you're so dizzy, and then cross your eyes. That's how I feel. That's the world I'm living in. It's very closed in. It's like you're inside of a plastic bag and you're trying to look out through it. It's not clear. Everything is cloudy and smoky, and it's such an unreal. I'm in an alternate reality almost. Nothing's clear. It's terrible. I can't read. I can't write. I can't live life to any extent. We can't go out to dinner because it's not worth it. It's too stressful for me to try to stumble. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to walk in. It's just been bad. On top of that is the isolation that they have done to me, which Dad told me about, and I don't know if they isolated my children and my family from me for their own protection, which is part of what I think, because they might have hurt them in order to get to me, which is, I can't believe I'm saying that, but that's, they killed these other 2 people. And I can't believe that's my life, but I know that Dad told me that the reason my family is gone and my friends, everybody disappeared in, I think it was 2018 or 19, in the course, my family before that, but my friends, that was the weird thing. They just forgot about me, because a few of them have come back. I had this woman call me late one night, and I was like, what's up? I haven't heard from you in so long. And she's like, Sherry, she said, I was just at this party and your name came up and somebody looked at me and they said, well, Sherry Wilde, you know her, don't you? Aren't you friends with her? And she said, it felt like I got slapped. And I was like, oh my God, yes, I am friends with her. And then she said, I thought, and I'm like, I haven't talked to you for a year. And I said, well, actually 2 years. And she said, I'm so sorry. And she started to kind of cry. And I said, I have to ask you. I said, because when you disappeared from my life was in a short, 3-month period of time where everybody disappeared. Everybody, I said, in a week, I lost 3 really close people. One of them said, I can't be your friend anymore for some reason. And a couple others, they just were gone. And I said, and I had just a large number of people who were I felt near and dear to, and they just all disappeared. And I said, what was it like on your end? What did you experience? And she said, it's like I forgot you. She said, it's like I forgot you. She said, until that woman said your name tonight. And she said, even then she had to say to me, aren't you friends with her? And I was like, oh yeah. And she said, it was so upsetting because I realized I knew time had gone by. And I had another friend who said the same thing. Well, I reached out to you at Christmas, and I'm like, I didn't tell her, no, you didn't. You're just erased from their life. And it's a weird thing. Now with my children and family, it's different. They found reasons that made sense to them to cut me out of their life. Dumb reasons, but reasons nonetheless that they are very attached to. And I have no family members other than my older brother, who I force him to talk to me once or twice a year. I'll text him or something. But the isolation has been really brutal. So what do I learn from all this, and what is it all about? To lose everything. What I realized, Adam, was that I have this core group of people, probably how many? Not many, but people like you, who I don't have daily contact or weekly or even monthly contact with. But I have these core people who have refused to leave my life, who will every now and then on WhatsApp or call or email or whatever, and they just stick there with me. Not for any reason other than they care. And that has meant the world to me. That's been kind of a lifeline, because what I learned is that it's really hard to live without that human connection. So I look at this, I want to say, well, I know that I'm experiencing it because on some level I agreed to. I still stand by the fact you can't be a victim. So why so much pain and suffering? I mean, a lot of suffering. Why? I had to have agreed to it on some level, whether I chose to put it on my path before I came here, which I don't remember, but because it showed up and I said, okay, I'm going to live through this. Yeshua came to me, as you know that story, and when I was asking why this, it's so hard. And he said, you chose it, Sherry. You chose it. But why? Answer, because it colors your soul in a way that you can't get any other way than by going through deep suffering. And you will forever wear those colors in your soul. And I had a friend of mine, Steve, who said, it's like you get your stripes or you get your badges, and the other soldiers will look at you and they'll go, oh, you served in there, or you served this, and they'll just know instantly, man, that must have been rough. And he's like, people will look at you and they'll go, you went to planet Earth and you took the tough road, and you survived it, you experienced it. I can only hope that there's some good that comes from having gone through all this horrible nightmare, and I'm hoping that there's an end to it, because it's been really terrible. I'd like to say I was brave and went through it like a champion, but Jim would tell you otherwise. There were days where I begged him to put a bullet in my head. I begged to be released, but God told me, you can't hear me. They had it covered. They're like, you can't leave. And I said, what do you mean? I can leave. I can leave. Don't tell me I can't leave. He said, you can't leave. And I said, I have free will. I can leave. You can't leave, Sherry. You're there on a mission and you can't leave. You're not a normal human. And I said, if I put the barrel of a gun in my mouth and I pull the trigger, I'm leaving. And he's like, try it. That just, man, that creeped me out. I'll never forget when he said that to me. And I shared that with Jim. And so every time, there was at least 3 nights where I told Jim, I said, just be prepared in the morning when you get up. If I'm gone, or if I'm, I can't get through another night. I just can't, and I'm sorry. And he'd just look at me, and he would sympathize with me. He would think, I don't blame you. But he'd say, what are you going to do, Sherry? They're not going to let you go. What are you going to do that they're not going to interfere with? He said, you're not going to be allowed to leave. I mean, that's that's the final escape clause. Everybody should be allowed to at least have that option. Now, right next month in March, that lifts. I mean, if I were to put a gun to my head right now and pull the trigger, it wouldn't work because I'm still under that curfew. I can't leave. But next month, I have exits, and I'm allowed to use them if I want. But that's probably because the film will be far enough along, and I can leave them and take the exit. They're telling me that my health will be better, and it better be. If my health is improved enough, I won't leave. Right now, I don't have any desire to leave. I can function well enough to live a life. It's not a good life. It's a life of survival and just getting through the day. But there are others who have worse. I'm not in as bad a shape anywhere near like what I used to be. But it's interesting the timing on all this, how they told me March of 2022 your life will be improved to where you won't want to leave. But also in 2022 of March, you can leave if you want. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna. But you know what? If the film is gonna be made and life is improved even just a little bit, it won't take much to make me happy. I mean, after you've lived this kind of life. And I'm not trying to feel sorry for it, but I'm just saying you can be blissfully happy with the most basic, simple, just a day without pain, a day of being able, for me, all I would ask for is to be able to walk. If I can get up in the morning and be able to put on my shoes and walk out the door and go for a walk and walk at least a block, walk around the block, if I had that, I wouldn't need anything else. So it's not going to take a lot to make me happy. But they're telling me that my life is going to be considerably improved. We will see about that. I hope so.
Well, I know everybody watching wants you to stick around for as long as you possibly can,
yeah.
But they also empathize on some levels with your pain, as some of them are also going through some things.
Absolutely.
But overall, I think this is a time where, at least it seems with the people that I'm with and that I follow, that we're all starting to gravitate our tribe that vibrates in the frequency that we hold, as opposed to the past. And so as this transition happens, we just have to kind of keep that in mind, that there's so many people that care about you and not just love your story, but care about you deeply, where they physically, emotionally, spiritually love you on more levels than you can probably imagine. You've done more in your lifetime than most, and of course there's no better, there's no worse, there's no lower, higher. We just want you to experience this documentary / whatever experience, whatever comes out with you while you're still here.
Yeah.
That's selfish of me to say out loud, but
no, it's true.
We really would prefer you to stick around, and we hope that March is a good month and a turning point.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I speak on behalf of many people that we thank you for your services. You've definitely sacrificed yourself for these many years. You wrote your book, and you had a lot to lose, and you had everything to lose, and you did. You lost everything, and you started over. So I hope your family in this frequency on this planet grows as exponential as it seems to be, and I hope healers come your way and find you, and maybe we can make this a positive ending.
Yeah, I hope so too, Adam. I really hope so too. It is an exciting time to be here, and I know so many people are suffering, and that's one thing I've tapped into is, I can't handle to see anybody sick or suffering. I just can't handle it anymore, because I just too much I empathize with them, and it just kills me, and it just angers me what's going on this planet. It just makes me so angry what has happened, but it's changing. I do take solace in the fact that we have pretty well undone the matrix. We did what we came here to do. My group of people, volunteers who are here with me, supporting me both on the ship and here. We took on a big challenge, and I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. And we freed the citizens of Earth, as far as I can see. I think we're 90%, 95% there anyway. I think it's a little premature to say we did it, but my guys are telling me that it's pretty much a done deal. There's still a few surprises out there, but so it's all good. So I appreciate you coming by and sitting out here in the sun and filming this.
It's beautiful out, and I'm honored to be here in your presence, and I'm honored to know you as a friend. First, I read your book a decade ago, and now we're hanging out in a back patio in the middle of Arizona. It's so bizarre how the universe works.
Well, you were one of those stalkers that stuck. I have a handful of. I mean, those are the people who are in my life now.
Yeah.
Pretty much the people who are there for me are people that I cultivated through meeting them through my book.
Right.
They refer to themselves as stalkers.
Yeah,
I
I'm a spiritual stalker.
Stalkers are stuck. Well, there were just, I mean, I still get emails and I still get messages from so many people, and for many people my book is new to them, and so they are emailing me. I just can't answer right now. I just, this hand doesn't type, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm sure they understand.
Yeah, I hope so. But anyway, I appreciate you doing this. I just I wanted to have something to throw up on my website to explain where I've been and what's been going on, because I'm not able to write, and I've been wanting to for so long, and people are concerned and they deserve to have a little bit of an answer. So,
is there one last comment or sentence you want to make to inspire anyone who might be experiencing something like you're experiencing on a level where their health has been compromised, or they've lost a lot of family and friends? Something short and sweet for the crowd.
I would go back to my original teachings, which has always been that we're not victims. And I had to remind myself of that many times too. And as a matter of fact, I mean, I feel when you're in those kinds of situations where your health is so bad and you've been abandoned and you've lost things in your life, whether it's your job, your loved ones, whatever it is, you have to remind yourself of the truth of who you are. Who are you? You're not this person who's going through all this hardship and this pain and suffering. You are bigger than that, but you chose to have these experiences. I don't like to say you're testing yourself. I don't like that, but you certainly have agreed to allow yourself to have these experiences because, again, as Yeshua said, you're coloring your soul. This is an experience that will ever change who you are. Your compassion grows, your view on life changes. It forever impacts the soul of who you are, which is what you're here to do. That's what's important. It isn't about the relationship you lost. I mean, I know it's going to sound cold and cruel, but it isn't about the money you lost, the job you lost, the relationship, none of that, even your health. You have to constantly remind yourself that you're bigger than that, and you have to remember. And sometimes it feels like a battle, and it is a battle. For me, I mean, I had Lucifer show up in my bedroom one night. I didn't know there was such a persona, but once he was there, I recognized it. I'm like, what are you doing here? And he said, well, you had to know I was going to make a play for your soul when you're in this condition. And I said, you're not going to win that battle. And he said, I'll never stop trying, Sherry. And I said, try all you want. And there were many times when I would come awake and I would be saying, I choose life, I choose love, I choose the light. And I was responding to the dark, pulling on me, saying, are you coming, just give into it, just give into it. Have you had enough? Over and over again I would hear, have you had enough? And you just have to choose over and over again. And the more you do, the more they'll back off. You have to be committed to staying in the light and staying on that frequency and keep your frequency as high as you can, which is really hard. My frequency is the lowest, but I still fight to pull it back up, and it can happen, and it's going to happen. So that would be remember who you are. Remember who you are, and don't give in to it. You're so much more than just that wrecked body or that broken heart or whatever it is you're experiencing.
Beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Sherry, thank you so much.
Anytime, Adam. Thank
All
you.
right, you bet.